Hello traders and welcome to today's market update. My name is Nick and I'm going to be taking a look at the Forex currency market with you, looking for some potential trade setups as well as big movements that are happening on the charts today. So let's go ahead and jump into today's market update. We're going to start with euro dollar here. I've got the daily chart pulled up because I wanted to point out what I've seen going on with the euro dollar. Now if you see, we are in this channel pattern, right? So we have this downward channel where price is bouncing off of the highs and bouncing off of the lows, right? Kind of traveling back and forth smoothly. Now we recently saw this continue after we talked about this low that we found in one of our recent market updates. We talked about this pin bar. We saw a bounce off of that low and now may be headed to potentially head back to the highs. Now I wanted to point something out with this. What you can see is that we are seeing a potential bull flag here on euro dollar. Now what do I mean by that? Well, we've seen our pull here. We've consolidated here. Now if I highlight a little bit more specifically, what you can see here is that this area here and this area here are kind of our flag kind of consolidation zone where we may see a continuation, pull back and continue to test this level here. I think that there's a good chance that we want to test that trend line, right? Because a lot of times markets will want to retest zones that they've recently hit and they've left, right? They want to come back and retest those zones to see if there's continued demand or in this case, continued supply, right? Sellers in that area. So we may see that this flag pattern might work out very nicely on euro dollar, especially kind of coming out textbook looking really pretty right now. May see an opportunity there, especially if we get a break. A retest might be a great opportunity to get involved long. That's just an idea there on euro dollar. Of course, maybe looking for confirmation or something else might actually help as well. The next one we're going to take a look at is pound dollar on the 4-hour time frame. What you can see here is, guys, the structure that we actually pointed out last week. You can see that this buy zone here actually broke through. So sellers were able to rally, push this thing down. As we've seen the bearish kind of strength of the pound recently, we can see that this area here, which was a support level, actually broke down. We saw a price movement through those lows and now may actually act as a potential level of resistance. So as price comes up into this area again, that level, which is now controlled by sellers, may actually hold as a level of significant resistance, and we might see price push lower yet again on the pound. Just an idea there from the pound on that particular setup there. Now what we can talk about next is USD JPY. Now I've got the weekly chart pulled up, and this is not a mistake. I know a lot of people don't look at the weekly, but this is an important thing to point out. What you can see here on USD JPY is long-term we have an interesting level of support, right? These long-term lows recently have held up, or not really recently, but in the last several times of touching this level, it's actually been holding as a very strong level of support. Now we see prices trading down lower into that same general area, and we may see reactions in a similar way, right? So if we do see that, this multiple bottom low may hold and we may see price rally from here, especially if we find some sort of confirmation or some sort of signs or evidence that price wants to turn around. We could look for that on maybe the lower time frames. The next one we're going to take a look at, guys, is Brent crude oil. Here's what I wanted to point out about this one. You can see if I back it up to the 4-hour chart really quick, that price has been kind of oscillating back and forth, falling along this trend line until recently, where we actually, if I go back to the 1 hour, we broke this level and now have been acting as support. So we're now seeing sort of a rally or sort of a bullish move here on oil. So you can see if we started to form a low here, we found a bounce, and now maybe looking to see another bounce off of these lows. If we do start going here to the long side, good chance that we do see price want to test this recent high. So that may be a short-term trade, especially if you're looking on those lower time frames. Might be a good little opportunity if you can find some sort of trade that fits your criteria. Next up is WTI crude, going to look pretty similar, but a little bit of difference that I wanted to point out. You can see that this zone here is a significant level of long-term kind of what was support became resistance. We may see price want to come up and test this area again. You can see that currently price is testing on the 1-hour time frame. It is currently testing this trend line here that we just got done talking about on Brent crude. Looks very similar on WTI. Now, if we see some sort of rally off of this structure, again, one short-term kind of focus might be to head back to test this area here, right? That recent high. But then even further, if we see a further push to the upside, bulls might push price up into this pink zone here. Next up is going to be gold, guys, which has entered kind of a consolidation phase. Now, what you can see here, I've got my analysis drawn. You can see that we were in the context of a very strong uptrend, right? Price continuously pushing higher, not really finding much of a pullback at all. But that's changed more recently, as on the 1-hour chart, you can see that we've entered kind of a consolidation zone. Price moving back and forth between these highs and between these lows, finding seller resistance along the top. as well as kind of finding, buyer support along the bottom. So if price can get up into this area, we might actually find some sort of reaction here to this to the short side, right? So also seeing consolidation that has been favoring both the buyers and sellers as price has been pushing back and forth. So looking forward on gold, we might see some consolidation options, or if you're a breakout trader, you might be able to look for something along the lines of a break and retest, right? For example, if we make a movement to the bull side, right, we could look for something like this, right? Find some sort of re-entry on a retest, as well as if we see a bearish move, a retest might also be an option to potentially ride this thing short. That's just what I see there currently on gold. Might be some opportunities there. Now, if I look at Euro GBP and I back it up to the weekly, what you'll see is you can see right here, we've had a multiple top, right? Long-term levels of resistance here in this particular market. Now, what we can see here, if I bring it back to the 4-hour chart and zoom in just a little bit, you can see that we did gap open this week, or gap down, by a significant amount. You can see we gapped down, what is that, about 35 pips or so. Price rallied, filled the gap, and now has found resistance in that same general area. So going forward, we'll see if this level can actually hold on a longer term scale. Are we going to see that this pink zone actually acts as a stronger level of resistance and we see price actually start to fall, or is this just a temporary consolidation zone before prices rally higher and break through those long-term highs? We'll have to be watching Euro GBP closely to see what the pound decides. Euro Canadian is the next one, guys. I did like this potential trade setup here on this particular chart. You can see looking at the 4-hour time frame, if we do get a pullback to the 61.8, I think you have some nice potential levels of support in this general area as well. So combining those two things, maybe even adding a moving average or some sort of confirmation candlestick pattern, you might have some really nice trade setups here on Euro Canadian. Aussie dollar is going to be our last one of the day. Looking here to see if we can potentially form an inverted head and shoulders. Now, what does that mean? If you don't know what it means, what you can see is that we were in the context of a downtrending market, right? Price was pushing down, and you can see as price pushed down, we actually were forming lower lows along the way, right? So lower lows, but here's where things change, right? So continuing forming lowers, here's another lower low, right? So we're in the context of lower lows, pushing price down, strong bearish trend. Well, then we see a rally, and we actually see the potential right here to form a higher low. If we do see this, this is where we might see an inverted head and shoulders pattern, and we may be starting to kind of form in the start of a new trend. You can see that here's our left shoulder, here's our head, and here's our potential right shoulder. We'll be watching this closely to see if an inverted head and shoulders actually presents itself. If it does, you might see opportunities to get long and to ride the trend to the upside. Guys, I hope you got something out of today's market update. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch our channel, and we will see you on the next time.